The medical alert bracelet said, Tommy Walsh, type 1 diabetic. Emma Harrison found it in the mud, abandoned in a cornfield. 200 yards ahead, an old barn. Inside, a 6-year-old boy who had 4 hours before his body shut down. 3 women, 1 criminal, and a 14-year-old girl who had to decide, right now, run for help that might not arrive in time, or stay and become the only thing standing between 4 people and a one-way trip across the border. Emma made a choice that would bring 187 Hell's Angels thundering into North Carolina. This is the story of a promise kept. If you believe protecting children is everyone's responsibility, comment "Protect them" and subscribe, because what 187 Hell's Angels did next will restore your faith in humanity. Thursday, October 24th, 2024, Haywood County, North Carolina, 5:15 p.m. The air smelled like autumn, wood smoke, turned earth, the faint sweetness of apples from the orchard 3 farms over. Emma Harrison walked the familiar path from her family's barn toward home, her green 4-H backpack slung over one shoulder, her boots caked with the honest dirt of afternoon chores. She'd just finished feeding Daisy, her prize heifer, checking the animal's vitals, documenting everything in her waterproof project journal the way Mrs. Rodriguez, her 4-H leader, had taught her. Details matter, Emma. In livestock care, in life, the details are what save lives. Emma didn't know it yet, but those words were about to become prophecy. She was cutting through the neighbor's cornfield, the shortcut she'd taken 1,000 times, when she saw them. Footprints. Small. Child-sized. Sneaker treads pressed into the soft mud near the irrigation ditch. Emma stopped. Her father had taught her tracking when she was 8, how to read animal prints, gauge their age, follow trails through the woods when a cow broke through the fence. These prints were fresh, maybe 30 minutes old. The edges still sharp, not yet softened by afternoon sun, but that wasn't what made her stomach tighten. It was the pattern. The prints started confident, evenly spaced. A child walking. Then they changed. Wider apart. Deeper at the toe. Running. And then 40 yards later, they stopped. Just stopped. In their place, adult boot prints. Size 11, maybe 12. Work boots with a distinctive tread pattern Emma recognized from farm supply stores. And drag marks. 2 thin furrows in the mud, like something, or someone, had been dragged. Emma's pulse kicked up. She looked around. The cornfield stretched empty in every direction, the stalks already harvested, leaving only stubble and open sightlines. No one here. No sounds except wind and distant crows. She should turn back, go home, tell her father, call someone. But then she saw it. 20 feet ahead, half buried in mud, a medical alert bracelet, red band, white lettering. Emma picked it up with shaking hands and read, Tommy Walsh, type 1, diabetic, insulin dependent. Her breath caught. Tommy Walsh. She knew that name. Jake Walsh's grandson. The little boy whose mom, Lily, had spoken at the county Veterans Charity event last spring, thanking the Hell's Angels for their donation to the domestic violence shelter where she volunteered. Emma had seen Tommy there, a small kid with freckles and light-up sneakers, shy but sweet, holding his mom's hand. And now his medical bracelet was lying in the mud in a cornfield 2 miles from the nearest road. Emma's 4-H training kicked in. The same calm, methodical thinking she used when a cow went into distress calving or a pig showed signs of illness. Assess the situation. Gather information. Act decisively. She photographed the footprints with her phone, documented the drag marks, slipped the bracelet into her pocket. Then she followed the trail. The boot prints led northeast, away from the road, deeper into the property that bordered her family's farm, the old Hendricks place. Nobody had lived there in 15 years. The main house had collapsed in a storm back in 2018. All that remained was the barn near the abandoned quarry, a structure so forgotten most people didn't even remember it existed. Emma moved carefully, quietly, the way you move when you're approaching a spooked animal. Every 50 yards, she stopped, listened, scanned the tree line. At 5:32 p.m., she reached the clearing. The barn stood there like a rotten tooth, gray wood, tin roof orange with rust, gaps between the boards wide enough to see through. One window frame, no glass. A crooked door barely hanging on its hinges. And light inside. Not natural light. Lantern light. Emma dropped behind the old grain silo 40 yards from the barn's front wall, her heart hammering against her ribs. From here she could see through the empty window frame directly into the barn's interior. A man stood inside, his back to her, talking on a phone. And tied to a chair in the center of the barn, small, terrified, trembling, was a little boy in a blue Superman t-shirt. Tommy Walsh. Emma's hands went numb. The man paced, agitated, his voice sharp, even though she couldn't make out words at this distance. He was tall, maybe 6'2", shaved head, full beard, black t-shirt, dark jeans, work boots, the same boots that made those tracks. Emma pulled out her phone. No signal. She was in a dead zone. The quarry and the surrounding hills blocked cell service for a half-mile radius. Her father complained about it constantly, but she had her emergency radio in her backpack, the short-range walkie-talkie 4-H kids carried for farm emergencies. Range of maybe 2 miles on a clear day. Not enough to reach her house, but enough to reach the Donovan farm to the east if she repositioned. Emma made a decision. She crawled 20 yards to the right, staying low behind the dense rhododendron thicket, until she had a clearer view through the barn's wall gaps. And that's when she heard it. The man's voice, angry, cutting through the evening air. "Yeah, change of plans. We got a kid now." Emma froze. Jake Walsh's grandson. No, I'm not letting him go. He saw faces, license plates, everything. Her stomach dropped. This is better than money. Jake sent me away for 8 years, took my daughter, my life, everything. Now I take his grandson forever. Emma's mind raced. Jake Walsh. Hell's Angels president. She'd met him twice, once at the charity event, once when the club donated money to rebuild the 4-H barn after the fire. He'd been gentle with the younger kids, patient, asked Emma about her heifer like he genuinely cared about the answer. This man hated him, wanted revenge, and he had Tommy. Shipment leaves at 10 p.m. like planned. 5 packages instead of 3. By midnight he's in Mexico. Jake will never see him again. Emma checked her watch. 5:47 p.m. 4 hours. 13 minutes. His insulin? That's at the reunion 2 miles away. Not my problem. Kid's going on a trip whether he's healthy or not. And that's when Emma heard Tommy's voice. Small, shaky, terrified. I need my medicine. Please, Uncle Marcus, I don't feel good. The man, Marcus, turned, walked to the boy, crouched down. His voice went cold. "Your medicine is at your great-aunt's house, kid. You're not going back there. You're merchandise now." Tommy started crying. Not loud, not dramatic. The quiet, hopeless crying of a child who knows no one is coming. And Emma Harrison, 14 years old, 5'4" and 118 pounds, made the most important choice of her life. She could run 2 miles to her house, 25 minutes at a full sprint, call 911, explain the situation, a trafficking operation, a kidnapped child, a ticking clock. But by the time she explained, by the time police organized a response for a crime scene this remote, by the time SWAT coordinated entry for a hostage situation, it would be too late. Marcus said the shipment left at 10 p.m. If he heard sirens, if he suspected discovery, he'd move Tommy now. Accelerate the plan. Disappear into the mountains. 500,000 acres of national forest within 30 miles. They'd never find him in time. And Tommy's insulin. Emma had seen diabetic emergencies before. Her cow, Buttercup, had diabetes. She knew the signs. Tommy's last dose would have been around lunch, maybe 1 or 2 p.m. He had 4, maybe 5 hours before his blood sugar crashed dangerously low. After that, confusion, seizures, coma. She looked at her backpack. At the emergency supplies she carried every single day because Mrs. Rodriguez drilled it into every 4-H kid. When something can't speak for itself, you become its voice. You don't leave until the job is done. Emma had glucose tablets, water, first aid supplies, a camera, rope, a radio, and she had skills. She pulled out her waterproof 4-H journal and wrote 3 sentences in careful block letters. Tommy Walsh, at Old Quarry, Barn. Marcus Thompson. Trafficking him plus 3 women. Shipment leaves 10 p.m. I'm not leaving him. She tore out the page, sealed it in a Ziploc bag from her first aid kit, and placed it at the tree line with a rock on top. If something happened to her, someone would find this. Then she settled into her hiding spot, pulled out her camera, and started documenting everything. Because Emma Harrison understood something most adults forget. Sometimes doing the right thing means doing the hard thing. And sometimes the hard thing is staying when running would be easier. At 6:03 p.m., Emma whispered a promise she intended to keep. Not to Tommy, not yet, but to herself. I'm not leaving you. Subscribe and comment, protect them. If you believe one person's courage can change everything, because what Emma does next will prove it. For the next hour and 7 minutes, Emma Harrison became something she'd never been before. A witness, a detective, and a lifeline. She documented everything. At 6:08 p.m., Marcus left the barn to check his truck. Emma had exactly 9 minutes. She moved. Not into the barn, too dangerous, too exposed. Instead, she circled to the back wall, where years of weather had rotted a gap in the boards near the foundation. She could see through. More importantly, she could reach through. Emma pressed her face close to the gap and whispered, "Tommy." The boy's head jerked up. His eyes, wide, red-rimmed, terrified, found hers through the crack. "Don't move. Don't make a sound." He nodded, fresh tears spilling down his cheeks. "I'm Emma. I'm going to get you out. But I need you to be very, very brave. Can you do that?" Another nod. His whole body trembled. "Are you hurt? Did he hurt you?" Tommy shook his head. Then, voice barely above a whisper. My wrists hurt. The rope. Emma could see the red marks even from here, but no blood, no visible injuries beyond that. Okay, listen to me carefully. Do you know what time you got your insulin today? Lunch. At the reunion? 1 o'clock, maybe? Emma's watch read 6:17 p.m. 5 hours ago. He had maybe 1 more hour, 2 at most, before things got dangerous. I have glucose tablets. I'm going to pass them through this crack. Take 2. Chew them slowly. They'll help until we can get you real medicine. Okay? She pushed the tablets through the gap. Tommy's bound hands fumbled for them, nearly dropped them, finally got them to his mouth. Good. That's so good, Tommy. Now I need you to tell me, are there other people here? The man said something about packages. Tommy's voice cracked. There's 3 ladies in the corner. They're tied up too. They look really scared. Layer 2 of the horror revealed. This wasn't just about revenge. Marcus was running a full trafficking operation, and Tommy had stumbled into the middle of it. Okay, I need you to be strong a little longer. Help is coming. Your grandpa, Jake, he's going to come for you. I promise. How do you know? Because, Emma said, thinking of the Hell's Angels she'd met, the ones who'd rebuilt the 4-H barn with their own hands, who'd stayed late to make sure every board was perfect, every child safe. Your grandpa protects people. It's what he does. And I'm going to make sure he knows where you are. Are you going to leave? The fear in his voice nearly broke her. No, Emma said firmly. I'm not leaving you. That's a promise. Okay? I'm right here. I'm going to stay right here until your grandpa comes. You're not alone. Promise? I promise. 4-H kids keep their promises, just like scouts. Tommy's face crumpled with relief. Owen kept his promise too. Mom told me. Owen was a scout, and he saved a girl, and he kept his promise. Emma had heard that story. The scout boy who'd found Jake's daughter years ago. It had been all over the news. That's right, and I'm keeping mine. Now, when the man comes back, you pretend we never talked. You understand? Don't look at this wall. Don't tell him about me. Just be as quiet as you can. And trust me. Okay. Emma heard an engine in the distance. Marcus returning. She pushed one more thing through the gap. A granola bar. Eat this. Slow. It'll help. Then she retreated back to her hiding spot behind the grain silo, just as Marcus's truck came into view. At 6:47 p.m., Emma's emergency radio crackled to life. She'd repositioned 3 times, trying to get enough elevation to reach the Donovan farm. Finally, from the top of the ridge 70 yards north of the barn, she got a signal. This is Emma Harrison on Emergency Channel 7. Is anyone receiving? Static. Then, Emma? This is Bill Donovan. What's wrong, sweetheart? You hurt? Bill Donovan, 68 years old, ran the dairy farm 2 miles east. Good man. Trustworthy. Mr. Donovan, I need you to listen very carefully and do exactly what I say. Do you have a pen? Hold on. Rustling sounds. Okay, go ahead. Call 911. Tell them there's a kidnapped child at the old Hendricks Quarry barn. Tommy Walsh, 6 years old, type 1 diabetic. The kidnapper's name is Marcus Thompson. He's holding Tommy and 3 adult women. He's planning to move them across state lines at 10 p.m. tonight. This is a trafficking situation. Silence. Then Bill's voice, sharp and serious. You're there right now? I'm watching the barn. I have evidence, photos, audio recordings. But I need you to call Lily Walsh, Tommy's mother, and tell her to call Jake Walsh immediately. Tommy's grandfather. He'll know what to do. Emma, you need to get out of there. I can't. If I leave, Marcus might move Tommy early. Just make the calls, please. I'm calling right now. You stay safe. You hear me? Yes, sir? The radio went silent. Emma checked her watch. 6:52 p.m. 3 hours. 8 minutes until 10 p.m. She didn't know it yet, but Bill Donovan was already dialing. And within 6 minutes, 3 phone calls would set in motion the largest biker mobilization in North Carolina history. Call 1. Bill Donovan to 911. 6:53 p.m. 911, what's your emergency? I have a report of a kidnapped child. Tommy Walsh, age 6, diabetic. He's being held at the old Hendricks Quarry Barn on Old Quarry Road, Haywood County. Suspect is Marcus Thompson. There are also 3 adult female victims. The suspect plans to transport them at 10 p.m. tonight. The dispatcher's tone sharpened. Sir, how do you know this? A 14-year-old girl is watching the barn right now. She's been documenting evidence. This is real. You need to send units immediately. Units are being dispatched. Stay on the line. Call 2. Bill Donovan to Lily Walsh. 6:55 p.m. Lily answered on the second ring. Hello? Lily, this is Bill Donovan. I need you to stay calm, but Tommy's been found. What? Her voice cracked. Where? Is he okay? He's alive, but he's in danger. A man named Marcus Thompson has him at the old quarry barn. Police are on their way, but you need to call your father. Right now. Jake needs to know. Marcus, oh my God. Oh my God. That's... Dad kicked him out of the club years ago. Her breath hitched. I'm calling Dad right now. Call 3. Lily Walsh to Jake. Hammer Walsh. 6:57 p.m. Jake was in the clubhouse in Asheville, reviewing paperwork for next week's charity toy run, when his phone rang, his daughter's name on the screen. Hey, baby girl, what's... Dad, someone took Tommy. The world stopped. Jake's hand tightened on the phone. His voice dropped to a tone every brother in the room recognized, the voice that preceded action. Tell me everything, right now. Marcus Thompson. He grabbed Tommy at the reunion. He has him at the old quarry barn. There's a girl there, Emma something. She's been watching. She has evidence. Police are coming, but Dad, it's Marcus. He's going to... How long ago? 2 hours, maybe more. And Dad, Tommy's insulin. He needs it. He had his last dose at 1 o'clock, and it's almost 7 now. Jake was already moving. Across the room, 46 brothers looked up as their president stood, his face carved from stone. I'm rolling out every brother within 200 miles. We'll get him, Lily. I swear to God, we'll get him. Hurry. Please. Jake ended the call. The clubhouse went silent. Then Jake spoke, and his voice carried the weight of 18 years leading men who'd follow him into hell if he asked. Marcus Thompson has my grandson. You could have heard a pin drop. Some of you remember Marcus. Reaper. We kicked him out in 2012 for running product. I testified against him. He did 8 years federal. Now he's running a trafficking operation out of Haywood County, and he grabbed Tommy for revenge. Jake's jaw clenched. My grandson is 6 years old. He's diabetic. He's been without insulin for 6 hours. Marcus has him at the old quarry barn with 3 other victims, and he plans to move them at 10 p.m. That's 3 hours from now. Police are responding, but we're not waiting. We're his family. We protect our own. 46 men stood as one. Vincent. Doc Moretti stepped forward. 58 years old, retired paramedic, the brother who'd saved 3 lives at a highway pileup last year, using nothing but a first aid kit and 25 years of experience. I need you ready with a full medical kit. insulin, glucose, everything for diabetic emergency. Already on it, Prez. Darius. Tracker Johnson, 44, former Army Ranger, the brother who could navigate any terrain in any weather and had once tracked a missing hiker through 16 miles of mountain wilderness in a blizzard. I need topographic maps of that quarry, all approaches, all exits. We set a perimeter so tight a mouse couldn't slip through. Consider it done. Miguel. Tech Alvarez, 36, IT specialist, digital forensics expert, the brother who'd helped police crack 3 major cases by recovering deleted data criminals thought was gone forever. Whatever evidence this girl has, we preserve it. Chain of custody. Legal. By the book. This bastard's going away for life, and I want every single charge to stick. Understood. Raymond. Brick O'Connor, 51, retired Charlotte PD detective, the brother who still had connections in every law enforcement agency in the state. Coordinate with responding units. I want FBI looped in. This is trafficking. This is federal. And I want to make damn sure we don't have any dirty cops on scene who might tip Marcus off. I'll make the calls. Marcus. Bear Kowalski, 47, construction foreman, the brother who'd built half the affordable housing in Asheville and knew how to breach any structure safely. We might need to get into that barn without bringing it down on those victims' heads. You figure out how. On it, boss. Jake looked around the room. Now here's the reality. Some of you are thinking we're going to roll up there, kick in the door, and handle this our way. And I get it. I feel it. That's my blood in there. My grandson. But that's not how we do this. He let that sink in. We're going to support law enforcement. We're going to set a perimeter. We're going to provide medical, tactical, and logistical support. We are going to be so professional, so disciplined that when this is over, the FBI thanks us for our help. Because the goal isn't revenge. The goal is getting Tommy and those 3 women out alive and putting Marcus away forever. Heads nodded. Chain Rodriguez, the sergeant-at-arms, stepped forward. Put out the call. Asheville chapter, full mobilization. Salem chapter. Charlotte chapter. Knoxville chapter. Every brother within 200 miles who can ride, rides. We meet at the junction of Highway 40 and Old Quarry Road at 8:30 p.m. Full kit. Medical. Communications. Tools. This is a rescue operation, and we're going to do it right. How many are we expecting, Prez? As many as answer the call, but I'm guessing at least 180. It would be 187. Now, you might think a large group of bikers descending on a crime scene means chaos, territory disputes, the kind of confrontation that ends badly. That's the story you expected, isn't it? But Jake Walsh hadn't built a brotherhood on rage. He'd built it on precision. Because here's what most people don't understand about the Hells Angels, at least not this chapter, not under Jake's leadership. They were fathers, grandfathers, veterans, paramedics, teachers, construction workers. They held down jobs, paid taxes, coached Little League. They organized charity toy runs every December, escorted abuse survivors to court, rebuilt homes after hurricanes. And when one of their own needed help, they responded with the same controlled, disciplined, overwhelming force that had made them legendary, not for violence, but for protection. At 7:14 p.m., Emma's radio crackled again. Emma, this is Bill. Police are 15 minutes out. And honey, Jake Walsh is mobilizing the entire Hells Angels network. He's got over 180 bikers on their way. Emma's eyes widened. Did you tell them I'm here? That I'm watching? I did. Jake says to stay hidden, stay safe, and keep documenting. He says you're doing everything right. Emma's throat tightened. Okay. You need anything? She looked at the barn, at Tommy, visible through the window, eating the granola bar she'd given him, at Marcus, pacing, checking his watch. "No, sir, just tell them to hurry. Marcus is getting nervous. He keeps checking his watch. I think he might move the timeline up." "I'll pass that along. You stay safe." At 7:29 p.m., 3 things happened simultaneously. First, Angela Martinez, Tommy's second-grade teacher, called the Haywood County Sheriff's Office. "I need to report something. Tommy Walsh, the missing boy. A month ago, he told me he was scared of someone named Uncle Marcus. I made a note in his file, but I didn't escalate it. I should have. If I'd called someone." Her voice broke. "Ma'am, we have units responding now, but we'll need a formal statement." "I'll give you whatever you need. I failed that little boy. I saw the signs, and I didn't act." Second, Patricia Donovan, Tommy's great-aunt, sat in her kitchen at the farm where the reunion had been held, her hands shaking as she dialed Lily's number. "Lily, honey, I'm so sorry. I saw Tommy get nervous when someone mentioned Marcus's name this afternoon. He went pale. But I thought he was just being shy. I should have asked. I should have protected him. This is my fault. Patty, this isn't your fault. This is Marcus's fault. Just pray. Pray they get there in time." Third, Deputy Leonard Hastings sat in his patrol car 3 miles from the quarry barn, his hands gripping the steering wheel so hard his knuckles went white. He'd been on Marcus Thompson's payroll for 18 months, $19,000 to look the other way, to provide advance warning on trafficking investigations, to make sure certain reports got buried. And now a 6-year-old diabetic boy was tied up in a barn because Hastings had taken money to let a monster operate freely. He picked up his radio. "Dispatch, this is Unit 34. I need to make a statement about the Tommy Walsh case. I have information about Marcus Thompson's criminal operation, and I need to turn myself in." Emma didn't know about any of this yet. She didn't know that 3 people who could have prevented this were coming forward, drowning in guilt. She didn't know that 187 bikers were converging on Haywood County from 4 different chapters, their engines roaring through the October evening like rolling thunder. She didn't know that FBI was being briefed, that SWAT teams were mobilizing, that the next 3 hours would become a case study in how to coordinate a multi-agency rescue operation. All Emma knew was this. At 7:43 p.m., she watched Marcus Thompson walk back into the barn, grab Tommy by the shoulder, and say something that made the boy cry out in pain. And she knew, with absolute certainty, that she'd made the right choice, because running would have been easier. But staying was right. And now, armed with 17 photos, 12 minutes of audio recordings, detailed documentation, and the knowledge that 187 Hells Angels were less than an hour away, Emma Harrison prepared to do the hardest thing she'd ever done. Wait, stay hidden, and trust that help was coming. At 8:04 p.m., Marcus Thompson made a phone call that would seal his fate. Emma, crouched behind the grain silo with her camera recording, caught every word. "Yeah, we're moving up the timeline. Something feels wrong. I want everyone loaded and gone by 9 p.m., not 10. You got that? 1 hour earlier." Her stomach dropped. 56 minutes. That's all the time they had now. 56 minutes before Marcus loaded Tommy and 3 women into a truck and disappeared into the network of back roads that crisscrossed the Appalachian Mountains. Emma keyed her radio, keeping her voice barely above a whisper. "Mr. Donovan, are you there?" "I'm here, Emma." "Marcus just moved the timeline up. He's leaving at 9 p.m. now, not 10. You need to tell them. They have less than an hour." Bill's voice tightened. "I'm calling Jake right now. You stay down, you hear me?" Yes, sir. Emma ended the transmission and turned her camera back to the barn. Through the window, she could see Marcus grabbing a duffel bag, shoving items inside with jerky, agitated movements. The three women in the corner, Emma could see them now, hands bound, terror written across their faces, flinched every time he moved near them. And Tommy, small, pale, trembling. His head kept drooping forward, then jerking back up. The glucose tablets had helped, but they were a temporary fix. His body was running out of time just as fast as the clock was. Emma checked her watch. 8:07 p.m. Then she heard it. Distant at first. A low rumble, like thunder rolling in from 3 directions at once. But this wasn't weather. This was mechanical. Deliberate. Engines. A lot of them. The convoy rolled into Haywood County at 8:19 p.m. 187 Harley-Davidson motorcycles moving in tight formation, chrome gleaming under the early evening streetlights. They came from 4 chapters, unified by a single mission: bring Tommy Walsh home alive. At the front, Jake Walsh, riding a black Road King, his face set in stone. Behind him, the Asheville chapter, 47 brothers strong. To his left, the Salem chapter from Virginia, 38 riders who'd made a 2-hour run in 90 minutes. To his right, the Charlotte chapter, 51 brothers who'd dropped everything the moment the call came through. And bringing up the rear, the Knoxville chapter, 51 riders who'd already positioned themselves along the Tennessee border, blocking Marcus's planned escape route south. They didn't roar through town, revving engines and drawing attention. They moved with purpose, with discipline, in a formation that would have made any military convoy commander nod in approval. Because here's what you need to understand. This wasn't a gang descending on a crime scene. This was a search and rescue operation, executed by men who understood that precision saves lives and chaos costs them. At 8:26 p.m., the convoy pulled into the staging area, a wide gravel lot a half-mile from the quarry barn, just beyond the tree line. Far enough to avoid spooking Marcus, close enough to respond in seconds. Engines cut off in synchronized waves. The silence after all that noise felt heavy, expectant. Jake dismounted and immediately found Sheriff Tom Whitaker of Haywood County, who was standing beside 3 state police vehicles, 2 FBI Suburbans, and a tactical response van. You might think this meeting would be tense. Bikers and cops, old grudges, mutual distrust. But Sheriff Whitaker had worked with Jake before. During the flood relief in 2019, during the missing child case in 2021. He knew Jake Walsh wasn't the problem. He was part of the solution. Jake, Whitaker extended his hand. Sheriff. Jake shook it firmly. What's the situation? Your girl, Emma Harrison. She's been feeding us intel for the last hour. Marcus Thompson is holed up in that barn with 4 victims. Your grandson, 3 adult females. He just moved his departure time to 9 p.m. That gives us, he checked his watch, 32 minutes. Rules of engagement? FBI is running point on the entry. This is a federal trafficking case now, but they want your input on layout, on Marcus's likely behavior, and they want your medical team standing by. Jake nodded. Doc Moretti is the best field medic in the state. 25 years of experience, and my grandson needs insulin immediately. FBI Special Agent Sarah Taylor is coordinating. She's over there. Jake turned to find a woman in her mid-40s, FBI windbreaker, tactical vest, radio earpiece. She approached with the confident stride of someone who'd run 100 operations exactly like this. Mr. Walsh? Jake. This is my sergeant-at-arms, Chain Rodriguez. my tactical advisor, Tracker Johnson, my medic, Doc Moretti, and my liaison to law enforcement, Raymond O'Connor, retired Charlotte PD. Agent Taylor assessed them in 3 seconds flat. I've read Mr. O'Connor's file. Detective first grade, 25 years, commendations for tactical operations. You retired in 2019. Yes, ma'am. Good. Here's the situation. We have positive visual confirmation from your witness, Emma Harrison, that Marcus Thompson is preparing to transport victims. We have audio recordings of him discussing the timeline. We have photographic evidence of the victims. This is as clean a rescue setup as we're going to get, but it's also delicate. One wrong move, and Marcus might decide eliminating witnesses is better than running. Jake's jaw tightened. What do you need from us? Perimeter. I want your people positioned at every possible exit point within a 1-mile radius. Nobody leaves this area without us knowing. Can you do that? We can do that. Second, medical support. Your grandson is diabetic. The moment we extract him, I need your medic ready to stabilize him until ambulance arrives. Ambulance is staged 3 miles out. Won't come closer until scene is secure. Doc Moretti spoke up. I have insulin, glucose, full emergency kit. If the boy's been without proper medication since 1 p.m., he's at 6.5 hours now. We're approaching critical window. After 7 hours, we risk seizure, coma. Agent Taylor nodded. Then we don't have time to wait. SWAT is ready to breach. But first, she turned to a young woman standing near one of the FBI vehicles. We need to extract our witness. Emma. At 8:34 p.m., Emma Harrison's radio crackled one final time. Emma, this is FBI Special Agent Sarah Taylor. I need you to very carefully, very quietly, withdraw from your position and move north toward the tree line. We have agents positioned to guide you in. Do you understand? Emma's hands shook. Yes, ma'am, but I can still see the barn from here. I can keep... You've done incredible work. But now it's our turn. We need you safe before we move. Can you get out without Marcus seeing you? Emma looked at the barn. At Tommy, visible through the window, head drooping again. She'd promised him she wouldn't leave, but she'd also promised to get him home. I can get out. Give me 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Move now. Emma gathered her camera, her radio, her notebook. She took one last photograph of the barn. Evidence, documentation, proof. Then she began her crawl backward, moving the same way she'd learned to approach nervous livestock. Slow, steady, invisible. She'd covered 30 yards when she heard Marcus's voice, loud and sharp. What the hell is that? Emma froze. Through the trees, she could see Marcus at the barn door, looking toward the access road. And in the distance, faint but growing, the sound of engines. Not motorcycle engines, vehicle engines. Multiple. Heavy. Marcus's face went pale. He spun back into the barn, and Emma heard him shout, We're leaving now. Load them up. Emma keyed her radio. He knows something's wrong. He's trying to move them now. Agent Taylor's voice came back immediately, calm and decisive. All units, subject is attempting to transport victims. Execute breach protocol. Go, go, go. What happened next took 47 seconds. SWAT Team Alpha approached from the east, night vision engaged, weapons ready. SWAT Team Bravo circled south, cutting off the access road. FBI tactical unit positioned at the barn's west wall, breaching equipment ready. And surrounding all of it, in a perimeter so tight a mouse couldn't slip through, 187 Hells Angels, positioned every 20 yards, watching, waiting, ready, not to attack, to ensure no one escaped. At 8:39 p.m., FBI called out through a megaphone. "Marcus Thompson, FBI, exit the structure with your hands visible. You are surrounded." For 3 seconds, nothing. Then Marcus's voice, panicked and furious. "I have hostages! You come in here, I start eliminating them!" Agent Taylor keyed her radio. "Thermal imaging, what do we have?" 5 heat signatures, 4 stationary bound. 1 mobile, that's our subject. He's near the east wall, pacing. Does he have a weapon visible? Affirmative. Handgun, visible in right hand. Jake Walsh, listening on the tactical channel, felt his blood turn to ice. Marcus had a gun, and Tommy was in there. But Agent Taylor's voice remained steady. "Marcus, we know you have 4 people in there. We know one of them is a 6-year-old boy who needs medical attention. We know about the trafficking operation. And we know you're looking at life in federal prison whether you surrender or not. The question is, do you want to add 4 counts of homicide to that sentence?" Silence. Because right now those 4 people are alive. They're witnesses, yes. But they're alive. You hurt them, you add death penalties to trafficking charges. You let them go, you might see daylight again before you're 70. That's the only choice you have. More silence. Then, "How do I know you won't just shoot me the second I step out?" "Because we're not here to shoot you, Marcus. We're here to arrest you, process you, and let a jury decide your fate. You come out with hands up, you get due process. You stay in there, you guarantee SWAT comes through that wall, and things get unpredictable. Your choice. You have 30 seconds. Jake watched the barn, his heart hammering. 29 seconds. 28. 27. At 15 seconds, the door opened. Marcus Thompson stepped out, hands raised, gun dangling from 2 fingers by the trigger guard. "Don't shoot! Don't shoot! I'm putting it down!" He placed the gun on the ground, stepped back, hands high. 3 FBI agents moved in immediately, weapons trained, professional, precise. Marcus was on the ground, cuffed, searched, and secured in 11 seconds. "Barn is clear for entry," Agent Taylor called. "Medical, you're up." Doc Moretti moved fast for a 58-year-old man. He was through the barn door in seconds, Jake right behind him, breaking protocol, but nobody was going to stop a grandfather from reaching his grandson. But Emma was faster. She'd sprinted from the staging area the moment she heard, "Barn is clear." She reached Tommy first, dropping to her knees beside the chair, her hands already working the knots. "I got you, Tommy. I promised I wouldn't leave you. I kept that promise." Tommy sat in that chair, wrists raw from rope, face pale, eyes glassy. But when he saw Emma, the girl who'd whispered to him through the wall, who'd given him food and hope, recognition flickered. "Emma? You really came back?" "I never left. I was right outside the whole time." She finished untying the ropes just as Jake reached them. He knelt beside Emma, his big hands gentle as he touched Tommy's face. "You're okay, buddy. You're safe. Your mom's on her way." Doc was already checking vitals, pulling out his glucometer. "Blood sugar's at 58, moderate hypoglycemia. He's conscious, responsive, but we need to get him stabilized now." Doc was already cutting the ropes, checking vitals, pulling out his glucometer. "Blood sugar's at 58, moderate hypoglycemia. He's conscious, responsive, but we need to get him stabilized now." He administered glucose gel, talking to Tommy the whole time. "You're okay, son. You're safe now. This is going to taste sweet. Just let it sit under your tongue." Behind them, FBI agents were cutting the 3 women free. All alive. All terrified, traumatized, but alive. Jake knelt beside Tommy, his big, scarred hands gentle as he touched his grandson's face. "You're okay. You're safe. Your mom's on her way." "There was a girl," Tommy whispered. "Emma. She gave me food. She said you'd come. She promised." "She kept that promise. So did we." At 8:53 p.m., Emma Harrison was escorted to the staging area by 2 FBI agents. The first person she saw was Jake Walsh, walking toward her with purpose. Emma froze. She'd met him before, but this was different. This was the grandfather of a child she'd just helped save. This was the president of 187 bikers who'd mobilized because she'd made a call. Jake stopped in front of her. For a moment, he just looked at her. This 14-year-old girl in a muddy 4-H t-shirt, her hands still shaking from adrenaline, her eyes exhausted but determined. Then he did something that would make Emma cry later, when the adrenaline wore off and the reality hit. He knelt down so he was at her eye level. "Emma Harrison," he said quietly. "You saved my grandson's life. You stayed when running would have been easier. You kept a promise to a boy you'd never met. And you documented everything so perfectly that the FBI says this case is airtight." His voice roughened. "You're family now. You understand? Hell's Angels. We protect our own. You protected mine. That makes you one of us." Emma's throat closed up. I did what my 4-H leader taught me. When something can't speak for itself, you become its voice." "Well, your teacher taught you right, and Tommy's alive because you listened." Behind Jake, Doc Moretti approached. "Prez, ambulance is here. Kid's stable, but they want to transport him to Asheville Medical for observation. His mom's meeting us there." Jake nodded, then turned back to Emma. "You want to ride with us? Meet Tommy properly when he's not, tied to a chair?" Emma managed a smile. "Yes, sir." At 9:17 p.m., Marcus Thompson was processed into federal custody. FBI Special Agent Sarah Taylor read him his rights, while 3 cameras recorded every word. "Marcus Eugene Thompson, you are under arrest for kidnapping, human trafficking of a minor, human trafficking of 3 adult victims, conspiracy to transport persons across state lines for illegal purposes, possession of a firearm in commission of a felony, child endangerment, and conspiracy to commit serious harm. You have the right to remain silent." As she spoke, Miguel Tech Alvarez was already processing evidence. He'd recovered Marcus's phones, 2 burners, 1 personal, 17 months of text communications. Coded language, yes, but the pattern was clear. He'd recovered the ledger hidden beneath the barn's loose floorboards. 87 entries documenting transactions, names, dates, dollar amounts. One entry jumped out. Mar 24, 1M minor, age 16, 42K. A previous victim. Miguel flagged it immediately. "Agent Taylor, we have evidence of at least 1 prior trafficking case involving a minor. March 2024, male, age 16, payment $42,000. Taylor's face hardened. "Add it to the charges, and start cross-referencing missing persons reports. If there's a victim out there, we find them." At 9:34 p.m., Deputy Leonard Hastings made his formal statement to FBI and state police. Raymond "Brick" O'Connor sat in on the interview, his retired detective's instincts reading every tell, every micro-expression. Hastings was 41 seconds into his confession when Brick stopped him. "You took $19,000 over 18 months. That averages to about $1,000 per month. What did Marcus pay you to do? Hastings's voice shook. Advance warning on trafficking investigations. If I heard anything on the scanner, any tip that came through dispatch, I'd text him. Give him time to move or hide evidence. How many investigations did you compromise? 3, maybe 4. And you didn't stop when you found out children were involved? Hastings's face crumpled. I told myself it wasn't real, that it was just rumors, that Marcus wouldn't really, but I knew. God help me, I knew. And I took the money anyway. Brick leaned back. You're looking at bribery, obstruction of justice, accessory to trafficking, conspiracy, federal charges, minimum 12 years. You understand that? I understand. Why come forward now? Because a 6-year-old boy almost died because I looked the other way. Because I can't live with that. I need to make it right. Brick studied him, then nodded. Then you cooperate fully. Every case you compromised, every payment, every warning you gave Marcus. You give us everything, and maybe, the prosecutor shows you mercy. Hastings nodded, tears streaming down his face. At 10:03 p.m., Angela Martinez and Patricia Donovan gave their statements. Angela first, her voice steady despite the guilt written across her face. Tommy told me he was scared of someone named Uncle Marcus. I made a note in his file. I should have called Child Services. I should have escalated it. But Marcus wasn't a legal guardian, wasn't living with the family, so I told myself it wasn't urgent, that I'd monitor the situation. The FBI agent taking her statement asked, "Did you follow up?" "No. I got busy." The note sat in his file. And today, when I heard Tommy was missing, I remembered. And I realized that if I'd just made one phone call a month ago, he wouldn't have been at that barn. Miss Martinez, you're a mandatory reporter. You had a legal obligation to report suspected concerns about a child's safety. I know, and I failed. I'll accept whatever consequences come from that. Patricia Donovan's statement was shorter, but no less painful. I saw Tommy's face change when someone mentioned Marcus at the reunion. He went pale, nervous. I asked if he was okay, and he said he was fine. But I could tell he wasn't. I should have pulled him aside, should have asked what was wrong, but I thought he was just being a shy kid around adults. Her hands shook. I'm his great aunt. I was supposed to keep him safe, and I let him wander into a cornfield where a predator was waiting because I didn't ask one simple question. What's wrong, sweetheart? Now, here's what you need to understand about these 3 people. Angela, Patricia, and Deputy Hastings. They weren't monsters. They were normal people who made small choices that had devastating consequences. A teacher who noted a concern but didn't escalate it. An aunt who saw fear but dismissed it. A cop who took money and told himself the crimes weren't real. And those small choices, those moments of looking away, of taking the easier path, of telling themselves someone else will handle it, created the space for Marcus Thompson to operate. That's how evil wins. Not through grand conspiracies or dramatic villains, but through good people who see something wrong and choose comfort over courage. At 10:41 p.m., the FBI finished processing the crime scene. They'd recovered 3 burner phones with 847 text messages documenting trafficking operations, 1 ledger with 87 transaction entries totaling $287,000, Marcus's personal laptop with browser history showing surveillance of the Walsh family bank records documenting unexplained deposits, purchase records for a cabin in Mexico, flight risk established. Photographic evidence, 47 images taken by Emma Harrison. Audio recordings, 18 minutes of Marcus's phone conversations, Testimony from 4 victims. Tommy plus 3 women, all rescued alive. Confession from Deputy Hastings, corrupt officer willing to testify. Special Agent Taylor closed her evidence log and looked at Sheriff Whitaker. This is the cleanest trafficking bust I've worked in 12 years. Usually we get partial evidence, reluctant witnesses, compromised crime scenes. This is a prosecutor's dream. Every single charge is going to stick. Whitaker nodded. Credit goes to that 14-year-old girl. She did everything right. She did. And when this goes to trial, her testimony is going to be the foundation of our case. At 11:08 p.m., Emma Harrison sat in the waiting room of Asheville Medical Center. Tommy had been admitted for observation. His blood sugar levels were stable now, but doctors wanted to monitor him overnight to ensure no complications from the extended period without proper insulin. Lily Walsh sat beside Emma, holding her hand. "I don't know how to thank you," Lily said quietly. "You saved my son's life. You stayed when you could have run. You kept your promise." Emma's eyes filled with tears, the first time she'd cried since this whole thing started 6 hours ago. "I was so scared. The whole time, I thought maybe I was making a mistake. That maybe I should have run and gotten help faster. But you didn't. You trusted your instincts, and your instincts were right." Jake appeared in the doorway. "Tommy's asking for Emma." Emma stood, wiped her eyes, and followed Jake into Tommy's room. The little boy looked small in the hospital bed, an IV in his arm, monitors beeping softly. But his eyes were clear now, alert. And when he saw Emma, he smiled. "Hi." "Hi, Tommy. You came. You really came. I promised I wouldn't leave you, and 4-H kids keep their promises." Tommy's smile widened. "Just like Owen, the scout boy. Mom told me he kept his promise too." Emma looked at Lily, confused. Lily's eyes glistened. 9 years ago, a scout boy named Owen found me when I was kidnapped. He stayed with me for 3 days in the woods, kept me alive, left trail markers for rescue. He was 12 years old, and he promised he wouldn't leave me. He kept that promise." She looked at Emma. "And you kept yours. Same courage, same choice. You're part of this family's story now, Emma. Forever." November 2024, 4 weeks after the rescue. The arraignment took place in federal court in Asheville. Marcus Thompson stood before Judge Patricia Hendricks in an orange jumpsuit, hands cuffed, face emotionless as the charges were read. 18 counts. Kidnapping across state lines. Human trafficking of 4 victims. 3 adult women. 1 minor child. Conspiracy to transport persons for illegal purposes. Child endangerment with intent to cause serious harm. Possession of a firearm during commission of a felony. Organized criminal enterprise. Bribery of a law enforcement officer. Each charge carried its own sentence. Together, they added up to a number that made even the prosecutor pause. Life plus 47 years. No possibility of parole. Marcus's attorney attempted to argue for a plea deal. Judge Hendricks denied it in 3 sentences. Mr. Thompson kidnapped a 6-year-old diabetic child and planned to transport him across international borders, fully aware the child would die without medical intervention. He operated a trafficking network for 17 months that victimized at least 5 people we know of, possibly more. There will be no deal. The trial was set for April 2025. But something else came out of that arraignment, something that vindicated Emma's documentation and Miguel's digital forensics work. That ledger entry from March 2024. 1M minor, age 16, 42K. FBI cross-referenced it with missing persons reports and found him. Daniel Reeves, 16 years old, runaway from foster care in Tennessee. He'd been moved through Marcus's network, sold to a labor trafficking operation in Georgia. When FBI raided that operation using intelligence from Marcus's records, they found Daniel alive, traumatized, malnourished, but alive. He was the previous victim that Marcus's greed had generated. And when Daniel was recovered on November 18th, it was Doc Moretti and Jake Walsh who drove to Georgia to bring him back to North Carolina, where a proper foster placement and trauma therapy were already arranged. Because that's what the Brotherhood did. They didn't just rescue, they restored. December 2024, 8 weeks after the rescue. Tommy Walsh returned to school. Not immediately. There'd been 2 months of therapy first. Play therapy with a counselor who specialized in trauma recovery for young children. Sessions where Tommy could process what happened through drawings and stories, instead of words he didn't have yet. Lily had wanted to homeschool him, to keep him close, to never let him out of her sight again. But the therapist gently pushed back. Normal is healing. Tommy needs to see that the world is still safe, that school is still safe, that people are still trustworthy. So, on December 9th, Tommy walked into 2nd grade carrying his backpack and his medical alert bracelet, the same bracelet Emma had found in the mud, now cleaned and back on his wrist where it belonged. His teacher, Angela Martinez, met him at the classroom door. She'd been investigated by the school board for failing to escalate Tommy's earlier statement about being scared of Uncle Marcus. The investigation concluded with a formal reprimand and mandatory additional training in recognizing and reporting child safety concerns. But Angela hadn't fought it. She'd accepted every consequence, attended every training, and personally funded a new program at the school. See Something, Say Something, a partnership with local law enforcement teaching teachers and staff to recognize trafficking warning signs. When she saw Tommy that first day back, she knelt down to his eye level. "Tommy, I'm so glad you're here, and I want you to know something. I'm never going to miss a warning sign again. Not from you, not from any kid in this school. You have my word." Tommy looked at her seriously, then nodded. "Okay, Ms. Martinez. You need anything at all, you come find me. Deal?" Deal. And just like that, a small measure of trust was rebuilt. The 3 women rescued from the barn had their own paths to recovery. Maria Santos, 19, trafficked from El Salvador. FBI connected her with immigration attorneys who helped her apply for a T visa, a special visa for trafficking victims. She was granted temporary legal status, enrolled in community college, and began studying nursing. Doc Moretti became her mentor, teaching her emergency medical basics. Jennifer Jen Park, 22. U.S. citizen, lured into trafficking through a fake job posting. The FBI helped her reconnect with her family in Oregon, who flew out to North Carolina the moment they learned she was alive. Jen spent 3 months in residential trauma therapy before returning home. She now volunteers with an anti-trafficking non-profit, speaking to high school students about recognizing online recruitment tactics. Ashley Rodriguez, 23, Army veteran, trafficked after struggling with PTSD and homelessness. The Brotherhood stepped in here too. Chain Rodriguez, no relation, but he took her case personally, connected her with VA services, helped her access delayed benefits, and found her a place in a veterans transitional housing program. 6 months later, Ashley was working as a logistics coordinator for a construction company. Jake offered her a job as the club's outreach coordinator for veteran services. She accepted. 3 women. 3 different stories. All of them given a second chance, because 187 bikers decided protecting people mattered more than territory or reputation. January 2025. 12 weeks after the rescue. Emma Harrison stood on stage at the North Carolina 4-H State Convention in Raleigh. She wore her green 4-H jacket, every achievement pin and ribbon she'd earned in 6 years of livestock showing, leadership training, and community service. Her hands shook slightly as she approached the microphone. Behind her, on a large screen, was a photograph. The old quarry barn at sunset, taken from her hiding spot behind the grain silo. The governor of North Carolina stood beside her. So did Mrs. Patricia Rodriguez, Emma's 4-H leader. And so did Jake Walsh, in a clean leather vest bearing the Hells Angels patch. "Emma Harrison," the governor began. "On October 24th, 2024, you demonstrated extraordinary courage, quick thinking, and selfless dedication to protecting a child in danger. You stayed when running would have been easier. You documented evidence that became the foundation of a federal trafficking case. And you kept a promise to a 6-year-old boy who needed someone to believe he was worth saving." The governor held up a certificate. "On behalf of the state of North Carolina, I present you with the Youth Heroism Award, the highest civilian honor we can bestow on a minor. Your actions saved 4 lives and helped dismantle a criminal network that had operated for 17 months. You are an example of everything 4-H teaches: service, courage, and leadership." The auditorium erupted in applause. 3,000 4-H members, parents, and leaders stood as one. But it was Mrs. Rodriguez who made Emma cry. She stepped forward and spoke without notes. "I've been teaching 4-H for 32 years. I've seen hundreds of kids earn championships, win ribbons, show prize animals. But Emma taught me something on October 24th. She taught me that every lesson we drill into these kids, responsibility, observation, problem-solving, staying calm under pressure, isn't just about raising better livestock. It's about raising better people." She turned to Emma. "You remembered what I said. When something can't speak for itself, you become its voice. You don't leave until the job is done. I said it about animals. You applied it to people. That's wisdom. That's courage. That's why you're not just a champion livestock handler. You're a champion human being." Emma stepped to the microphone, wiped her eyes, and spoke. "I didn't do anything special. I saw a little boy who needed help, and I had the tools to help him. My 4-H backpack, my tracking skills, my camera, the glucose tablets I carry for my diabetic cow. Everything I needed was already there because 4-H taught me to be prepared." She paused. "But I want to say something to every kid here. If you see something wrong, don't wait for someone else to fix it. Don't assume adults will handle it. Don't tell yourself it's not your responsibility, because sometimes you're the only one who can help. And that's scary. But it's also what makes us human." Another standing ovation. And in the back of the auditorium, watching through tears, were Lily Walsh and Tommy, who'd asked specifically to be there to see Emma honored. April 2025, 24 weeks after the rescue. The trial lasted 6 days. The prosecution called 43 witnesses, presented 287 pieces of evidence, showed the jury Emma's photographs, played her audio recordings, walked them through Miguel's digital forensics. Deputy Leonard Hastings testified for 3 hours, detailing every warning he'd given Marcus, every investigation he'd compromised. His testimony was devastating, not just for Marcus, but for himself. Hastings was sentenced separately to 12 years federal prison for corruption and accessory to trafficking. Angela Martinez testified about Tommy's earlier statement regarding Uncle Marcus. She explained her failure to escalate it, her regret, the changes she'd implemented at the school. The defense tried to use her testimony to suggest Tommy had fabricated fear. The jury didn't buy it. Patricia Donovan testified about seeing Tommy's nervousness at the reunion. Her guilt was palpable, but it also underscored a critical point. Multiple people had seen signs, and institutional gaps had prevented action. The three women, Maria, Jen, Ashley, testified about their experiences. Their voices shook. Their courage didn't. Emma testified on day 4. She was 17 years old now by the trial date. Wait, no. Let me recalculate. October 2024 to April 2025 is 6 months. Emma was 14 in October, so she's still 14, maybe 15 depending on birthday. Emma, now 15 years old, took the stand wearing the same green 4-H t-shirt she'd worn that day. Not for drama, because the prosecutor asked her to. It helped the jury connect the girl on the stand to the girl in the photographs. She walked them through everything, finding the bracelet, following the trail, hiding behind the silo, whispering to Tommy through the barn wall, making the choice to stay. The defense attorney asked one question. "Were you scared?" "Yes, sir." "Then why didn't you run?" "Because Tommy was more scared, and he couldn't run." Silence in the courtroom. Tommy didn't testify. He was too young, and the prosecution had enough evidence without forcing a 7-year-old to relive trauma. But he was there, in the gallery, holding his mom's hand. On April 29, 2025, the jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on all 18 counts. Judge Hendricks sentenced Marcus Thompson on May 15, 2025. "Mr. Thompson, you targeted a child for revenge. You operated a trafficking network that destroyed lives. You showed no remorse, no recognition of the harm you caused. You will spend the rest of your natural life in federal prison. Life plus 47 years. No parole. May you find in that time the humanity you denied your victims." Marcus was led out in chains. In the gallery, Jake Walsh put his arm around Lily. She wept, not from grief, but from relief. It was over. Justice wasn't revenge. Justice wasn't violence. Justice was a man who'd destroyed lives being held accountable by a system that worked when enough people refused to look away. October 24th, 2025. 1 year after the rescue. The Hells Angels, Asheville chapter, held its annual charity event at the clubhouse, a fundraiser for the domestic violence shelter, the Veterans Program, and a new initiative, the 4-H Youth Safety Fund, created to provide emergency radios and safety equipment to every 4-H chapter in western North Carolina. Emma was the guest of honor. She arrived with her parents, her 4-H jacket covered in new ribbons, including one that read, State Youth Heroism Award 2025. Tommy ran up to her the moment she walked in, now 7 years old, healthy, thriving. He hugged her around the waist. "Emma, did you see? I got my own 4-H project now. I'm raising chickens." Emma laughed. "That's amazing, Tommy. Are they good chickens?" "The best. One of them is named Emma, because she's brave." Emma's eyes filled with tears for the 100th time that year. Jake approached, carrying a box. "Emma, the Brotherhood voted, and we'd like to give you something." He opened the box. Inside was a leather vest. Not a cut, not club colors, but something custom-made. Black leather with green trim, embroidered across the back in careful stitching. Emma Harrison, 4-H hero, honorary Hells Angels, Asheville. Chapter Seoul, October 24th, 2024. You earned this, Jake said quietly. You protected one of ours when we couldn't be there. That makes you family. Forever. Emma put it on. It fit perfectly. Around the room, 187 bikers, men in leather and ink, men who looked like they'd break you in half, applauded a 15-year-old girl in a 4-H jacket and an honorary vest. Because they understood what so many people miss. Strength isn't about how hard you can hit. It's about what you're willing to stand up for when hitting isn't an option. By October 2025, the impact of that single night had rippled outward in ways no one could have predicted. Haywood County Sheriff's Office implemented mandatory trafficking recognition training for all deputies. Response time to child safety calls was cut in half through new protocols. North Carolina 4-H added emergency preparedness and safety awareness to its core curriculum. Every chapter in the state now carried emergency radios funded by the Hells Angels Safety Fund. Emma's school district adopted the See Something, Say Something program district-wide. Teacher reporting of safety concerns increased 340% in the first year. Daniel Reeves, the previous trafficking victim, graduated from his therapeutic foster program and enrolled in community college. He visits Tommy twice a year. They understand each other in ways others can't. The three women, Maria, Jen, Ashley, formed a support network. They speak at schools, churches, and community centers about trafficking prevention. In the first year, their presentations reached 12,000 people. Tommy Walsh returned to normal childhood. He plays soccer. He raises chickens in his 4-H project. He has nightmares sometimes, but less often now. And he knows that the world has more Emmas and Jakes than it has Marcuses. And Emma Harrison? She's still raising livestock, still earning ribbons, still carrying her 4-H emergency backpack everywhere she goes. But she's also become something else. A reminder that courage isn't about being unafraid. It's about being terrified and doing the right thing anyway. This story isn't really about bikers or badges or barns. It's about the choice every single one of us faces when we see something wrong. Do we look away? Do we tell ourselves someone else will handle it? Do we choose comfort over courage? Or do we become the voice for someone who can't speak? Do we stay when running would be easier? Do we keep promises even when keeping them costs us everything? Angela Martinez looked away once. She'll never do it again. Patricia Donovan dismissed a child's fear. She learned that small moments matter. Deputy Hastings took money and told himself the crimes weren't real. He's spending 12 years understanding they were. But Emma Harrison saw a medical alert bracelet in the mud and decided that a child she'd never met was worth 4 hours of fear, of danger, of choosing to stay. And 187. Hells Angels heard that a child needed help and mobilized the largest rescue operation in their chapter's history. Not with violence, not with chaos, but with precision, discipline, and overwhelming protective force. Because that's what real strength looks like. That's what courage looks like. And that's what happens when good people refuse to look away. If this story moved you, here's what I need you to do. First, subscribe to this channel. We tell stories about ordinary people doing extraordinary things. We remind you that the world has more helpers than it has monsters. And we show you that courage doesn't require a badge or a patch, just a choice to act when action is needed. Second, comment below with this phrase, "I won't look away." Not for the algorithm, for you. Because saying it out loud, even just typing it, makes it real. It's a promise, and we keep our promises. Third, share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Maybe it's a teacher who wonders if reporting suspicions matters. Maybe it's a parent who's teaching their kids about responsibility. Maybe it's someone who's struggling with a choice between comfort and courage. Send it to them. Let them know. Looking away is easy, but staying changes everything. Fourth, if you see something, anything that doesn't feel right, speak up. Call the National Human Trafficking Hotline, 1-888-373-7888. Text HELP to 233733. Contact local authorities. Don't assume someone else will handle it. Be the Emma in someone's story. 2 years after the rescue, Tommy Walsh wrote a letter to Emma Harrison. It was part of a school assignment. Write to someone who changed your life. The letter is 3 pages long, written in careful second-grade handwriting. But the last paragraph is what matters. Dear Emma, I don't remember everything from that day, but I remember your voice through the wall. You said help was coming. You said my grandpa would find me. You promised you wouldn't leave. And you didn't. You kept your promise. So I'm keeping one too. When I grow up, I'm going to help people like you helped me. Because you showed me that even when you're scared, you can still be brave. Thank you for staying. Love, Tommy. Emma keeps that letter in her 4-H journal, right next to the page where she wrote, Tommy Walsh at Old Quarry Barn. I'm not leaving him. Because some promises you keep. And some promises keep you. If you believe protecting children is everyone's responsibility, subscribe now. Because the next story we tell might be the one that changes someone's life. And together, we're building a community that refuses to look away. Thank you for being here. Thank you for caring. And thank you for being the kind of person who believes courage matters. See you in the next story.